If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. The Mountain and the Man, Freeland Oscar Stanley, came to Estes Park in 1903, expecting to die. His doctors had told him the mountain air might slow his tuberculosis. It did more than that. He got better, fully better. A man who had arrived weak and pale, walked those Colorado hills and felt something change in him. Not just his lungs, but his plans. Stanley was already rich and well-known. He had co-invented the Stanley Steamer, one of the most celebrated automobiles of its time. He knew how to build things, and now he had a place he wanted to build in. Construction began in 1907. The hotel rose on a high ridge, 7,500 feet above sea level, with Long's Peak filling the view from every front window. Stanley brought Georgian colonial design to raw mountain land. He installed his own hydroelectric plant to power the lights, years before most of Colorado had electricity. The hotel opened on July 4, 1909. The date was not accidental. Stanley lived on the property until he died in 1940, 37 years past his original prognosis. But the ridge he built on had been Arapaho land, shaped by ancient geology and violent weather. No blueprint had ever asked the ground for permission. What the Maids refused to enter. The Stanley Hotel kept records the way all hotels do. Maintenance requests, incident reports, guest complaints filed and filed away. But when researchers began looking through decades of those documents, something stood out. Certain rooms kept appearing, not for bad plumbing or noisy neighbors, for cold spots with no source, for sounds coming from rooms that turned out to be empty, for the feeling, reported again and again, of being watched. Room 217 shows up more than any other. In 1911, a gas leak caused an explosion there. A housekeeper named Elizabeth Wilson fell through the floor. She survived, and according to staff accounts recorded over the following decades, she kept coming back to clean that specific room herself, right up until she died. By the mid-20th century, housekeeping staff were quietly asking to be moved to different floors. Some newer employees simply refused certain rooms without explanation. Management discouraged this talk. It was bad for business. What management did not fully consider was the building itself. The original construction, thick walls, specific materials, unusual room placement, created a structure that carries and distorts sound in ways that are difficult to trace. A noise made in one part of the hotel can appear somewhere else entirely. That is documented. What is not documented is where some of the sounds were coming from in the first place. A writer checks in. Stephen King arrived at the Stanley Hotel in October 1974 with a problem. He had an idea for a novel, a writer losing his mind in an empty mountain hotel, but the story would not move. The Stanley was nearly shut for winter. He and his wife Tabitha were, by most accounts, the only guests. They were given room 217. King walked the long, quiet hallways alone. He sat in the empty ballroom. He had drinks with a bartender who had almost no one else to serve. The hotel was silent in a way that a full hotel never is. That night, King dreamed his young son was being chased through the corridors by a fire hose. He woke up and started writing. The novel that came from that single night became The Shining. King never named the Stanley directly in the book. His fictional Overlook Hotel was built from several places, and Kubrick's 1980 film was shot somewhere else entirely. Yet King kept telling the story publicly, kept pointing back to that room, that night. The building did not need to appear on screen. The author's own words were enough. Room 217 stopped being a room people avoided and became a room people waited months to book. What exactly King felt in that room, he has never fully explained. The music no one plays. The ballroom at the Stanley Hotel holds a Steinway grand piano that has been there since the hotel's earliest days. Flora Stanley, wife of founder F.O. Stanley, played it regularly. She was a trained, accomplished pianist. For the guests of that era, her performances were part of what made the hotel worth visiting. Flora died in 1939. The piano stayed. Sometime around the 1960s, reports began coming in. Guests heard music from the ballroom when no one was inside. Staff accounts describe locked doors, empty rooms, and still music. Not noise, not random sound. Actual melodies played with structure and intention. Guests on the floor directly above have submitted written complaints about late-night piano music. When staff checked, the ballroom was empty and locked. Acoustic engineers who studied the building noted something worth taking seriously: sympathetic resonance. Where piano strings vibrate from structural movement, usually produces scattered, disconnected tones, not coherent songs. The harder detail is this. Some guests described the style of the music as old-fashioned, formal, Edwardian in character. They said this before anyone told them Flora's story. That detail keeps the question open. Did they hear something real, or did the building trick them? And if it was a trick, why did so many people hear the same kind of music? The Séance and the Skeptics teams have walked the Stanley's corridors with instruments for years. Electromagnetic field readers, thermal cameras, infrasound detectors, air pressure gauges. The tools vary, but the locations they flag stay consistent. The 4th floor, room 217, the ballroom. Those 3 spots appear in report after report from different teams in different years. Engineers offer a clean explanation for the EMF spikes. The building is over a century old. Its wiring was never updated to modern shielding standards. Old wire leaks field energy. That is ordinary physics. But researcher Michael Persinger spent years studying what elevated EMF does to the human brain, and his findings, still argued over, never fully dismissed, suggest that certain field strengths can produce a strong feeling of being watched, or not being alone. Infrasound adds another layer. Several investigations measured low-frequency sound waves well below what human ears detect. The Rocky Mountain geology beneath the hotel generates these naturally. Large, old buildings amplify them. At specific frequencies, infrasound is documented to cause dread and anxiety in normal, healthy people with no prior expectation of anything unusual. The harder problem is control. The Stanley welcomes investigators because it is good for business. That commercial openness means the building is rarely quiet, rarely cleared, rarely in a state where a proper controlled study is possible. Television crews arrive and produce drama. Serious researchers leave without clean data. What stays unanswered are the accounts from staff and contractors who reported strange experiences before anyone told them where they were working. The door that stays unlocked. The Stanley Hotel does not claim to be haunted. It does not deny it either. That silence, held for over a century, may say more than any official statement could. The building stands. The records stand with it. Staff reports, guest accounts, investigator logs, electromagnetic readings. None of it adds up to a clean answer. What the evidence does confirm is this: the Stanley is not a simple place. Its walls carry sound in ways that still confuse people. Its geology is active beneath it. Its history reaches back further than the building itself. These are physical facts. They do not explain everything that has been reported inside it. Stephen King visited once, felt something he could not name, and turned it into one of the most read horror novels ever written. He has never said the hotel is haunted. He has only said it felt that way to him. That distinction matters. Room 217 still books out regularly. The 4th floor corridor still produces accounts that do not easily dissolve under scrutiny. The old white building at the edge of the Rockies keeps receiving guests, keeps generating stories, and keeps offering no final word on any of it. The door, as it has always been, remains open.